Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Daily English Podcast. I'm your host, Connor.
And I'm Linda, your co-host. How are you doing today, Connor?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. You know what? I've been thinking a lot about education lately.
Oh, really? What got you thinking about that?
Well, I was helping my nephew with his homework last week, and I realized he learns so differently from how I used to learn.
That's interesting. In what way?
He needs to watch videos and use apps to understand things. When I was his age, I just read textbooks and took notes.
Yeah, times have definitely changed. I think technology has really transformed how people learn nowadays.
Absolutely. But it made me wonder if there are different types of learners out there.
There definitely are. I read somewhere that people have different learning styles. Some are visual learners, some are auditory, and others are kinesthetic.
Can you explain what those mean? I've heard those terms before, but I'm not exactly sure about the differences.
Sure. Visual learners understand things better when they can see them, like diagrams, charts, videos, or written instructions.
That makes sense. So they prefer to look at information rather than just hear it.
Exactly. Then there are auditory learners who learn best by listening. They prefer lectures, discussions, and audio materials.
I think I might be more of an auditory learner, actually. I always love listening to my teachers explain things.
Really, I'm more visual myself. I need to see things written down or in a picture to really understand them.
What about kinesthetic learners? That's the third type you mentioned.
Right. Kinesthetic learners learn by doing. They need hands-on experience and physical activities to understand concepts.
Oh, like learning by practice and movement?
Yes, exactly. These are the people who can't just sit and read a manual. They need to actually try things out.
That's my nephew for sure. He always wants to build things or experiment instead of just reading about them.
It's good that you recognize that about him. Understanding your learning style can really help with education.
How do you think schools handle these different learning styles?
Well, traditional schools often focused mainly on lectures and textbooks. That worked great for auditory and visual learners.
But not so much for kinesthetic learners.
Right. They probably struggled more because they weren't getting the hands-on experience they needed.
Do you think modern schools are doing better with this?
I think they're trying. Many schools now use a mix of teaching methods to reach different learning styles.
Like what kinds of methods?
They use videos and presentations for visual learners, group discussions for auditory learners, and labs or projects for kinesthetic learners.
That sounds like a much better approach. Everyone gets something that works for them.
In theory, yes, but it can be challenging for teachers to accommodate everyone in one classroom.
I can imagine. They must have to plan their lessons very carefully.
Definitely. It takes more time and effort to create lessons that work for multiple learning styles.
Do you think online learning has changed this at all?
Oh, absolutely. Online learning has actually made it easier in some ways.
How so?
Well, students can choose how they want to learn. They can watch videos, read articles, listen to podcasts, or do interactive exercises.
That's true. They have more control over their learning experience.
Exactly. And they can go at their own pace, which is another huge advantage.
What do you mean by their own pace?
In a traditional classroom, everyone has to move at the same speed. But online, if you need more time to understand something, you can take it.
And if you understand something quickly, you can move ahead without waiting for others.
Right. That's one of the best things about online education, in my opinion.
But there must be some downsides too, right?
Of course, one big problem is that it requires a lot of self-discipline.
That's a good point. Not everyone is good at motivating themselves.
Especially younger students, they really need structure and guidance from teachers.
And what about social interaction? That's missing from online learning.
You're absolutely right. Learning isn't just about absorbing information, it's also about interacting with other people.
Yeah, working in groups, making friends, learning social skills. Those are all important parts of education.
Very important. That's why I think the best approach is probably a blend of both.
A blend? You mean combining online and traditional classroom learning?
Yes, exactly. Use technology and online resources to support different learning styles, but keep the face-to-face interaction too.
That makes a lot of sense. Get the best of both worlds.
Right. Students can watch lectures at home and then use class time for discussions, projects, and getting help from teachers.
I've heard of that approach. Isn't it called the flipped classroom?
Yes, that's it, the flipped classroom model. Students learn the basic content at home and then apply it in class.
That sounds really effective. Have you tried teaching that way?
I have, actually. When I was tutoring, I used some of those principles.
How'd it work out?
Pretty well. Students seemed more engaged because they weren't just sitting and listening to me talk the whole time.
They were actively participating instead.
Exactly. And I could see which students were struggling and give them extra help.
That's really valuable. Individual attention makes such a difference.
It really does. But again, it requires smaller class sizes to be effective.
Right. You can't give individual attention to 40 students at once.
Exactly. That's one of the challenges in education. Resources and class sizes matter a lot.
Speaking of challenges, what do you think is the biggest challenge in education today?
That's a tough question. There are so many challenges.
Just pick one that you think is really important.
I think one major challenge is keeping education relevant to real life.
What do you mean by that?
Well, sometimes students learn things in school that they never use in real life, and then they wonder why they had to learn that.
Oh, I remember feeling that way about some subjects, like when will I ever use this?
Right? And that can make students lose motivation and interest in learning.
So how can we make education more relevant?
I think we need to connect what students learn to real-world applications. Show them how they'll actually use this knowledge.
Give them practical examples and situations.
Yes, and maybe even bring in people from different professions to talk about how they used what they learned in school.
That's a great idea. Students can see the connection between education and careers.
Exactly, and that might inspire them to pursue certain fields too.
What about teaching life skills? Do you think schools should focus more on that?
Absolutely. Things like financial literacy, cooking, basic home repairs, communication skills.
Yeah, those are skills everyone needs, but not everyone learns them.
Right. I think schools are starting to recognize this more now.
That's good. Education should prepare you for life, not just for tests.
Well said, though tests and assessments are still important, of course.
True. How else can you measure if students are learning?
That's the question, isn't it? Testing is controversial but necessary in some form.
What's controversial about it?
Well, some people think standardized tests don't really measure understanding. They just measure test-taking ability.
I can see that argument. I knew people who understood the material but didn't do well on tests.
Exactly. Test anxiety is a real thing. Some students just don't perform well under pressure.
So what's the alternative?
Many educators advocate for diverse assessment methods, like projects, presentations, portfolios, and practical demonstrations.
So you'd evaluate students in multiple ways instead of just one big test.
Right. That way, students with different strengths can all show what they've learned.
That ties back to learning styles again, doesn't it?
It does. If we accept that people learn differently, we should also accept that they can demonstrate knowledge differently.
That's a really good point. Education seems to be moving in that direction.
It is, slowly. Change in education systems takes time because there's so much tradition and bureaucracy.
True. What do you think about the role of memorization in learning?
Oh, that's another controversial topic.
Why is it controversial?
Well, traditional education relied heavily on memorization, learning facts, dates, formulas, and so on.
And people think that's not important anymore?
Some do. They argue that in the age of Google, you don't need to memorize facts. You need to know how to find information and think critically.
But don't you need some basic knowledge memorized to build on?
That's the counter-argument. Yes, you can't Google everything in the middle of solving a problem or having a conversation.
Right. You need a foundation of knowledge in your head.
I think both are important. Some memorization is necessary, but we should also teach critical thinking and problem solving.
Balance is key, like with most things in education.
Exactly. Speaking of balance, what do you think about homework?
Oh, homework is definitely debated a lot. Some people think kids get too much homework.
And they say it causes stress and takes away time from family, hobbies, and rest.
But others argue that practice is necessary to really learn something.
Right, and homework teaches responsibility and time management.
So what's your opinion on it?
I think reasonable amounts of homework can be beneficial. The key word is reasonable.
Not hours and hours every night.
Exactly. It should reinforce what was learned in class and not be overwhelming.
And it should be meaningful, not just busy work.
That's crucial. If students are just filling out worksheets for no real purpose, that's not helping anyone.
Good homework should make students think or practice important skills.
Agreed. Quality over quantity.
Let's talk about motivation for a moment. How do you keep students motivated to learn?
That's one of the biggest challenges for teachers. Every student is different.
What works for one person might not work for another.
Exactly. But I think making learning interesting and relevant helps a lot.
How do you make something interesting if a student just doesn't care about the subject?
You try to find a way to connect it to something they do care about.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Let's say a student doesn't care about history, but loves sports. You could teach history through the lens of sports history.
Oh, that's clever. Use their interests as a bridge to the subject.
Right, and celebrating small successes is important too. When students see they're making progress, they stay motivated.
Positive reinforcement.
Yes, though you also need to challenge them. If things are too easy, students get bored.
So you need to find that sweet spot. Not too hard, not too easy.
Exactly. It's called the zone of proximal development in education theory.
Can you explain that?
It's the idea that learning happens best when the task is just beyond what someone can do independently, but possible with guidance.
So students should be challenged but supported.
Right. If it's too easy, they don't grow. If it's too hard, they give up.
That makes sense. Teachers really need to know their students to find that zone.
They do. That's why teaching is such a skilled profession.
Speaking of teachers, they're so important in the learning process, aren't they?
Absolutely. Crucial. A great teacher can inspire a lifelong love of learning.
And a bad teacher can turn students off from a subject forever.
Sadly, yes. That's why teacher training and support is so important.
Do you think teachers get enough support?
In many places, no. Teaching is demanding, and teachers often don't have enough resources or help.
That must make their job even harder.
It does, and it affects the quality of education students receive.
What would better support for teachers look like?
Smaller class sizes, more funding for materials, professional development opportunities, and better pay.
Those all sound reasonable. Education should be a priority.
It should be, because it affects everything else in society. Educated populations tend to have better health, economy, and quality of life.
That's true. Investing in education is investing in the future.
Exactly. But not everyone sees it that way, unfortunately.
We've covered a lot today. Is there anything else you think is important about learning styles in education?
I think the main thing is recognizing that everyone is unique. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to education.
We need to be flexible and open to different methods.
Yes, and we need to keep evolving as we learn more about how people learn.
Education is always changing, isn't it?
It is, and it should be. We should always be looking for better ways to help people learn and grow.
Well, I've certainly learned a lot from this conversation. I hope our listeners have too.
Me too. Learning about learning is always interesting.
Well said, Linda. And to all our listeners, thank you so much for joining us today on Daily English Podcast.
We hope you enjoyed today's discussion about education and learning styles.
If you found this helpful for your English learning journey, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
And hit that like button. It really helps us reach more English learners like you.
We'll be back tomorrow with another interesting topic to discuss.
Until then, keep practicing your English and remember that everyone learns differently.
Find what works for you and stick with it. Thanks again, everyone.
See you tomorrow.
Bye, everyone.